That works. Yeah, I'm ready to go whenever you are.
Yeah. Rock and roll.
Yes? Okay. Let me share my screen. All righty. Let's see here. Hello, everybody. It is a pleasure to be connected with you all today. So my name is Rodney C. Burris. I'm glad to be here. So I am not going to be talking about anything connected to data. What I'm going to be talking about is interpersonal relationships and how that can level up our leadership. So if this is kind of like the mental break that you were looking for, kind of after a whole day or so of just constant data presentations, which are great, this is our time, right? So let's jump straight in. All right. This is a little bit about me, but we'll talk more about me. We don't have to get into that right now. I have been doing trainings across America and in a few different countries in Costa Rica and South Africa for quite some time. One of my largest clients is an organization called Fiat Chrysler Automotive. I have done work with them and their 14,000 employees that is based in a state in America called Michigan. This is me at the headquarters doing, again, just multiple types of this work. And I liken myself, I'm holding a basket there. And if you think about a bee, like a honeybee, right? It goes from flower to flower, and it collects pollen and drops off pollen. And in its own way, it helps bring about new growth. And so I think that one of my strengths that I've been able to bring to the table is not so much that I'm a wealth of knowledge, but it's the ability to have learned and been in so many places, collect those best practices and give them out, you know, in forms like this. So I'm just going to be sharing some things that I have collected from industry leaders, presidents, directors from different types of companies and fields across the spectrum during our time today. This is me doing some social movement. I didn't know that picture was taken. Those are my kids, but I have been on the forefront of some things. And this is me in South Africa, right? South America in Machu Picchu. So that's just a little bit about the person that you're going to be spending the next 40 minutes with. I know sometimes just reading a simple bio is like, who is this guy? So this is me. And now let's jump into inclusive leadership. You ready? All right. So we're going to do the basics. That's why I call it 101. It's like a college course. I actually am in one of my college classrooms right now, right? So we'll see if I get the chance to write on the board. What I would love for everybody to do is type in a number 5. But listen, there's more than one way to write a number 5. So there's the digit, there's the Roman numeral, right? There's multiple ways you can write out the number. You can use a different language to write it. Cinque if it's Italian, cinco if it's Spanish. So I would like for everybody to put into the chat their number 5s, right? Because we're going to use the number 5. I'm going to talk about 5 tips of our leadership going out and then 5 tips for our leadership coming in, right? For ourselves and then for how we engage others, okay? This is why this is called inclusive leadership. So 5 for them, 5 for us, all right? Here we go. The first set of 5. The first set of 5 is based on something called the all-in model. Now, as you can see, each one of these words begins with the word in. Investing, inspiring, interconnecting, involving, interchanging. I almost guarantee you that the way we're going to look at these words, these terms, are completely different than normal ways we have thought about these terms in the past. And I want to give a special acknowledgement to an organization based in Baltimore in America. They're called thread.org. Thread, like clothing, right? If you were sewing a shirt, you would use a piece of string or thread, right? Thread.org. Thread.org, they use these terms, but they also use them differently than how we're talking about them. But I give them credit because they inspired this idea for what I'm sharing with you today. Again, me doing a little bit of the honeybee kind of collecting and sharing some of these best practices, right? So the all-in model is a very effective way that I've seen over the years organizations employ different aspects of this to help bring in their people and level up their teams. And if we want productivity, whether folks are working from home, whether we're meeting virtually, whether we're coming together, this model is a great way to go about it, okay? So here we go. The first one is investing. Now, as you can see here, this gentleman is wearing a suit, but he's also wearing a vest with his suit. The word investing, etymologically speaking, means to cover on the inside, right? When our people that are under our care feel that we have their best interests at heart, when they feel like we're taking care of the whole of the person, right? And not just do your job, go to work, this is what I'm paying you for. When they feel covered on the inside, they begin to tie in with us to a greater degree. Does that make sense? And so because of that, their ability to step up to the plate, right? That's a cliche that we use in America. I'm not sure about all of the idioms that kind of translate so easily, but that one particularly means my comfortability in becoming a different version of myself for the organization, for the company. That goes up when they feel that we have their best interests at heart, investing, right? The next one, inspiration. Now, as you can see, this guy's having a good time at work, right? Whatever he's doing, he's enjoying it. I have a friend of mine, he works for YouTube, right? He works for Google in the YouTube department, right? So here's my data connection. And he was telling me that, first of all, I didn't know that people that worked at Google were called Googlers, right? You guys probably knew that. I didn't know that. I didn't know they were called Googlers. And so Googlers have this special benefit that they can spend a portion of their time for the company working on a different project that has nothing to do with the company. Because Google spends its time hiring good people that like the work, that want to grow and innovate. So they do a lot of work on the front end, bringing in good people. And because they know that the people want to do this work, they don't feel the need to constrain them to only do just this. They want to encourage the creativity, encourage the innovation. So inspiration, when we provide inspiration for our teams, in this sense, for the all-in model, it literally means allowing them to explore other avenues. Who knows? We all as a team could benefit from it. It's worked for Google, right? It's worked for other companies that employ this aspect of the all-in model, right? This is inclusive leadership. Let's keep going. Interconnecting. So interconnecting, this is about having experiences that are outside of the normal workday, right? So this is not just jumping on a Zoom call and sharing a cup of coffee. That could work. I know companies that do that. This is not just, having an at work, after work kind of party. This is literally having experiences where we get to interconnect. We get to build bonds of relationship and rapport, and so in this situation, these guys just finished the whitewater rafting. As a matter of fact, one of those guys is me, right? And I work with these gentlemen and we had a great experience. And so you can do stuff like escape rooms, you can go hiking, you can just experience the outdoors. So much of our time is spent behind these screens, right? Our tablets, our laptops. So getting out, having the benefit of fresh air, right? Being safe and responsible, but also building those bonds so that we desire to work with the people that we're employed together with, all right? Does that make sense? Let's keep going. The next one is involvement. Now, this is also a little bit different. So involve means to bring around, right? To bring them close in, etymologically speaking, right? This is literally making the table accessible. So when we're designing policies in the workplace, and this is any type of leadership, right? This could be parental as parents. This could be in organizations, social clubs, any type of leadership. These sort of principles are transferable. Yes. And so when we're coming up with policies or we are desiring certain outcomes for our team members, for our staff, when we bring their voices to the table so that they help define the goal, right? What are we trying to accomplish? We get their feedback. Then they also get to define the reward. If we accomplish this, what makes sense? See, sometimes what I found and what we see often is that supervisors, managers, leaders often think that what they are going to want to do this is unreasonable. It's going to be absurd. It's going to be something that doesn't make sense for our organization, when in fact, it could very well make a lot of sense. They can want something so simple, so small in return. We wouldn't know that. We gain the benefit of their voices when we invite them to the table. This is involvement. And also, they get to chime in on if we don't make it, right? What's the result of that? What's the outcome? What's the consequence? And not in a punitive sense, right? But let's look at it like addition. So when I say consequences, I don't mean something that's necessarily a punishment. It's like this. When we get 4 from adding 2 and 2, that 4 isn't a punishment. It's just a natural consequence of the formula, right? And so that's what we want. We want natural outcomes and we want their voices. This is involvement. Okay, that's the 4th of 5. The 5th one. The 5th one is called interchanging. Now, I must admit, I've only seen some of the most progressive organizations do this. I'm gonna give you an example. In Washington, D.C., I worked with an organization that had a few hundred employees. Their boss, the CEO of that organization, they had a lot of janitors and custodial workers, right? People that kind of cleaned up the streets and things of that nature. This multi-million-dollar company, the CEO put on the uniform of a janitor and joined them out in the streets. And then they also had some times where people came into the office and explored some of those other roles. What that creates is a feeling of inclusivity that's hard to break. It levels up everyone. This here isn't that organization, right? The picture that I've showed is completely different. So in America, we had a TV show for quite some time. I don't know if you guys are familiar with it as well. It's called Undercover Boss. The premise behind Undercover Boss, for those of you that know, is an organizational head, CEO, president, going in disguise and joining the ranks, right? Kind of doing the whole trajectory of the product line from inception all the way through the finish, right? Factories and working and you name it. Well, this here is a mayor. This gentleman here is the mayor of a city in America. And he wanted to experience life for some of the workers employed by the city. So he joined this show, his Mayor Perkins, right? And this is him here, completely different, right? They put fake hair on his face and gave him extra hair because normally he's quite clean cut. But these experiences, so at the end of it, right, the value of an interchanging experience is not just, oh, I did it, right? We're missing a component. The value is that we come back together to the table and we share. Now that you've seen the life of what I do, and now that I've seen the life of what you do, how can we increase the quality of our work-life experience here? What would make it better? That's the value of interchanging, right? That kind of loop around. I do for you, you do for me, okay? So again, the all-in model is investing, covering them on the inside, inspiring them, letting them do their own passion projects because we know that we have good people. We trust who we're working with, right? And if not, then that's something else we need to work on, different conversation. Interconnecting outside of work in a way that completely allows people to just be people, right? Involving, bringing their voices intentionally to the table to define the outcomes, the goals, and the natural consequences. And then interchanging with intention, having times where we change experiences so that we can better learn and see from each other's purview, right? Now, I have a handout, a document of this that I can give for free. As a matter of fact, my contact for the organization was a gentleman by the name of Jeremy. Hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly. I can actually, Chris, if maybe we can send a reminder to each other, you and I on the back channel, I can send this version to Jeremy, and everybody that's here today, we'll have Jeremy get this to you guys, right? So you can have the expanded printed version if you like. Cool? Now, I told you it was 5 for me and 5 for you. Yes? So with that being said, put a new 5 in the chat. There's more than one way to write the number 5, right? So put a new 5 in the chat, because our first 5 was how we can improve our engagements with them. But the truth of the matter is, if we don't become different and better ourselves as leaders, we're only going to have but limited results with the people that we're trying to serve, right? Because as John Maxwell says, he's also a phenomenal leader. He has done work around the globe as well. Leadership has a ceiling. And so the level of our leadership is where our people will grow to. And then we'll experience all kind of discomfort. Think about a pot on the stove, a pan or a pot that has a lid on it, and it's bubbling. And we're seeing that the lid is shaking, right? It's making all of this noise because the contents within want to expand broader than the current level of leadership. And so if we really, really, really want them to do differently and better, that is first reflected in our own growth journey. Does that make sense? Okay, let's keep going. All right, so here's the 5 for me, right? The 5 for them, the 5 for us, ourselves. Counseling and therapy. What in the heck does this have to do with workplace leadership? This is about us. Again, I've learned this from industry leads. Let's keep going. The next one, having a life coach or a mentor. I'm going to get into this in a second. Physical self goals, right? There's a saying that's often thrown around in America, is that if you feel good, you think good. If you think good, you speak good. If you speak good, you'll behave good. And if you behave good, you get good outcomes, right? And it all starts with taking care of the me that I am. All of these are about taking care of the me that I am. Let's keep going. Books, audio, visually. That is written kind of like a Jeopardy category, right? You guys are familiar with Jeopardy, I believe. Books, audio, visually. So we'll get into that in a second. And then utilizing your vacation time. And one of the things that I have found when I do this particular leadership training in many cities around America, I think it's a little different from my experiences that I've seen in Europe. And what I mean by that is I think that you guys are so much further ahead in the workplace as it relates to taking holiday. Americans struggle with that. And as a result, or it's an interesting correlation, that there are a lot of workplace related illnesses such as ulcers and migraines and stress and dislocated or slightly misaligned vertebrae, and all of these those are stress related illnesses and conditions that probably could be alleviated if we took a little bit more holiday. So this is something that I would love you guys to kind of travel back, as our folks in England would say, across the pond, right? And share this with us. But let's jump in. Now, because I'm trying to embody for us a first person look at taking care of ourselves. So the first pictures I showed you different people, right? This one, I'm going to take the first person approach and show you my own approach to each of these over the course of my own career, kind of doing the honeybee thing in action. Okay, let's jump in. The first one, counseling and therapy, right? Now, this here is me actually doing something called color therapy, which is really just kind of releasing the inner psyche through the I don't want to use the word mindless as if it's not intentional, but the kind of amusement, which is away from thought. The etymology of amusement, or to be amused, is to be away from thought, right? Be away from that inspiration. And so coloring kind of does this for the human. It allows us just to kind of go into a different brainwave state where we can relax and release inhibition. So if there are any qualms against literally going to a professional therapist, whether that's cost or just comfortability, there are other ways to accomplish this same thing. Okay, let's keep going. Having a life coach or a mentor. Now, this is me operating in one of those spaces, right? Talking about becoming different and better. As you can see, I like to use 101 a lot because I am a college professor, and it's a great way of saying these broad concepts are actually right here. We can touch them. They're entry level for us all, right? Now, what's the difference between a counselor and a therapist versus a life coach and a mentor? A counselor or a therapist allows us to untangle things from our past, just all of our experiences, our emotions, our thoughts, all of those things, kind of untangle that so we can see where we are. A life coach or a mentor allows us to identify where we're trying to go and then chart a path to get there. So one untangles where we have been so our present is more clear. The other allows us to see where is our next destination and what's a smooth way efficiently to move towards it. They both are invaluable. And your best players, David Beckham, Michael Jordan, right? The best players and the best athletes still have coaches. They still have trainers. They still have people that help them level up, to untangle, to move forward. It's a life lesson in that, right? And now that I'm thinking about it, this next picture, I'm going to be a little embarrassed, actually, to show you guys. But Chris, I'm going to do it. I'm going to show this embarrassing picture. This next one is on physical self goals. And this is me screaming like a maniac. And so what happened was I just experienced a very challenging physical activity that I did not think I was going to do. And to be honest with you, there was a portion of it where I thought I was going to drown. As you can see, I have one pant leg that is ripped. I was very much underwater, and that pant leg was acting like a parachute. It was billowing, and I couldn't break the surface, right? And there was this other time we had to jump over fire, and just a dangerous sporting event. Sport. I don't know if you guys have obstacle races like this. You don't need to do something this crazy and daring, right? I don't know what's wrong with this guy. There's something wrong with the me that I am, maybe, right? Your physical self goals could be drinking more water. Your physical self goals could be waking up a little bit earlier, going to bed at a more reasonable time. Your physical self goals could be taking a walk, doing a couple of kilometers, and we don't even use that term. I don't even know how to pronounce it. Kilometers, kilometers, we say miles. Why, I don't know. It doesn't even make sense, right? But you don't have to be as crazy as this guy. He's a maniac. I don't even think you should have this, webinar with this crazy guy. But you do want to identify ways that I, as the person, can level up. Because what happens as leaders, we often talk to our people and we want them to do the new policies. We want them to follow the new procedures and the guidelines. We ourselves, meanwhile, haven't really changed. That's evident. People can see that with us. Our growth, because it speaks on a subliminal level, right? We all have that kind of sixth sense. Let's keep going. Books audio visually. Now, what I like about this is I've read some phenomenal books. Malcolm Gladwell has a book called Outliers. It's phenomenal. I just read the autobiography of the founder of Nike shoes, Nike tennis shoes. If we were together, I would have everybody raise their hand who has on a pair of Nikes, and then I would do this thing about who has a bunch of Nikes at home. And It's just a fun exercise, right? Well, the founder, Phil Knight, has a great story, and we can learn from these people. And they're all types of different books. Another book by Carol Dweck is called Growth Mindset, right? These type of books grow us. There's a saying, not all readers are leaders, but all leaders read. As you can see, I put audio visually, because we may not have the time or the lifestyle at the moment to allow us just to read for leisure as long as we want. Warren Buffett, billionaire Warren Buffett, he reads about 3 hours a day. There's some life lessons in there, as we would say, some nuggets, some golden nuggets in there. But I can always put on some headphones, right? I can put in an earbud, an AirPod, and I can learn those ways, right? I can kind of still take in and get the benefits. So books, audio, visually. And then the next one. Okay, Chris, I guess I have 2 embarrassing pictures, Chris. So using your vacation time doesn't have to be in the mountains of the Dominican Republic, in the Caribbean, jumping off a cliff into a body of water below, because that's a little crazy, right? But we want to get better and better at taking time off. Recently, my wife did something that we call a staycation. Are you guys familiar with that term? If you're familiar, write the word staycation in the chat. A staycation is literally what it sounds like. Instead of going off to another country, going to Holland, kind of enjoying some of the weather or the sights there, you stay at home and you just enjoy. And that's something that is missing from a lot of the workplace in America. And I want to believe that it's different and better for you guys, because you give me hope. So Chris better not tell me later that Rodney it's not like that at all. Everybody's stressed out. Nobody takes a break. Nobody listens to their own body, right? Okay, so let me do a time check real quick. Chris, don't let me go over time. So let me recap these real quick. Counseling and therapy, right? Life coach, having a life coach or a mentor so we can chart where we want to go. Physical self goals can be anything that's a different improvement for the me that I am. Yes. All leaders are readers, right? We see it all over the place. And then last but not least, taking care of self, taking that time. All right. Chris, I want to play a quick game with the folks. We're going to play this game and I'm going to get out of here. Okay, let's play a quick game. I want you guys to use the chat room for this. I'm going to do a countdown, and then I would like for you to read or type in. I want you to type in the phrase that you see on the screen. Okay, I'm going to give you 10 seconds. When you see the phrase on the screen, you have to quickly type it in. What's that phrase? 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3. Let's see, did anyone get it right? Chris, help me see, did anyone get it right? The phrase is, getting better for me gets me better for everyone.
Yeah, we've got a few.
This is the mindset behind inclusive leadership. Getting me better for me gets me better for everyone else. And that growth is reflected in the people that we serve. Okay? So again, I am Rodney C. Burris. We can connect all over social media. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm in Clubhouse now. I have friends that are in London that I've met via the wonderful new app Clubhouse. We can definitely stay connected. We can learn. We can explore together. I just wanted to take a moment to thank the people that made this event possible. Red Gate and Solar Winds and Minionware. And we've had several other sponsors, so definitely grateful for their portion that they've contributed. And then last but not least, remember your 5, the 5 for me and the 5 for you that make up inclusive leadership. And Chris, with that, I would like to release the mic. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone.
Wow, fantastic. Some really, really interesting points there, Rodney. The thing that really struck out for me, apart from the crazy sporting event that you did, where you're jumping over fire, was things that you were saying about how the guys out in the US don't take vacation as much as, say, the likes of the Brits or Europeans do. Is there a particular reason for that? I don't know if anyone there is from the US.
Yeah. So we have this idea of it was well intended, Chris. It's the possibility, the American dream, which is great, right? But the other side of that coin, right? If you flip it over, the other side of that same coin is this thing that if you're not working, going, trying, then you're not doing anything. And so that's why it's this never ending endeavor to have more and more and more. And so we went through a period like in the 80s and 90s where cars, especially in the 70s, 80s, like a 30-year period where cars were huge because they had to be, because more was never enough. And so that's kind of like the unintended consequence of that kind of mentality. I believe it was well intended. I believe that we can learn a lot from sharing with our brothers and sisters across the pond.
Yeah, fantastic.
Adam, thank you. Adam Anderson, Sean, thank you too. I had a great time. And I don't know if I'm pronouncing this correctly. Is it Damu? Demu? I hope. But thank you so much. Awesome session, Rodney. Thank you for an inspiring session. I enjoyed this with you guys. Yes, I pronounced it correctly, Chris.
Virtual high five.
That's the virtual high five. But yeah, thank you guys for allowing me to share this with you all. I was aware that what I'll bring to the table isn't a traditional group buy session, right? I'm not in software and data and programming and things of that nature. I was hoping that it would still be a value add for your experience. And so the few of you that are saying that it was a thumbs up, I was on the radio, Chris. I had a radio show in America for a little while in Baltimore. And the station manager told me something that I always remember. He said, Rodney, every time one of those lights light up, it represents 1,000 listeners that are not calling in. So every time somebody calls in on the phone, that's one person, but they are reflective of 1,000 other people that are not calling in that are still listening. That's a huge value. I say that because everyone that was in our session didn't have to chime in. The fact that we had a few that said that they appreciated it lets me know that for us, it was a good session. So I'm very grateful for that. I'm grateful for the time, and thank you guys. Thank you, Chris.
Yeah, that's a great way to be thinking about it, to be honest. Something I hadn't really thought of it that way, because even if you're presenting in person, and you're not always going to get people engaging, all the time. But I suppose the 1 to 1,000, I know radio is different to maybe to compensate this, but it's a good way of thinking about it. I love that.
Yeah, man.
But yeah, fantastic session. You said it's not the data sessions that group buys used to, but we are starting to see a lot more of this type of session and a lot of other events as well. And the uptake is fantastic. That they really, really are receptive. Yeah, people are resetting them very well. It's great.
Cool. Well, if it's okay, if there are no other questions coming through the chat.
I would say there's no questions in the chat. So I don't know if everybody else that's online still at the moment. If you do have some questions, now is the time.
Now is the time, because again, I have not had lunch nor breakfast, my good fellow European. I got up to do this. And so soon as we get out of here, I'm going to get some breakfast. Then I'm going to an airport, and I'm flying from Baltimore to Detroit. I don't know if you guys are familiar with that city in America, because I have sessions to do in Detroit this week. So I love that things are kind of opening up a little bit. I've enjoyed the virtual setting, but I miss the interpersonal connections as well. So more and more is starting to happen, and I'm looking forward to it. If anybody, I need your, Chris did message me, guys, to remind me about Jeremy. So he stuck to his word. He's a good one. So what I'm going to do is just do a quick note to self real quick. And with that being said, I'm going to humbly, gracefully bow out, guys.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day. Enjoy the flight. Have a safe flight. So then there was just me. Oh, and Ben Weisman's still there.
Here, I'm here.
Yeah.